Welcome to Leader U by Black River Performance Management, where we believe work should fuel the human spirit, not drain it. In this leadership podcast, we will dive into the lived experiences of people flourishing in today's workplace and beyond. Join us to hear real-life examples of experiences from our own lives and from the leaders we know and trust. Successful organizations are dependent on people being competent in their job. To prepare people to do the work, we must prepare them according to the skills, knowledge, and abilities required for the job, correctly and consistently. One of the services Black River offers is evaluating employee and candidate competencies. Our 25 competency assessment focuses on the soft skills, or what we like to call them, essential skills. Our competency assessment is used for more accurate hiring practices as well as for staff development. Every organization could use these competencies to ensure an individual's skills match the soft skills required by the job, to nurture the right talent, to improve productivity, and to develop dynamic leaders. For a sample of the 25 leadership competencies, definitions, and assessment, email us at info@blackriverpm.com. All right, hello and welcome to the Leader U podcast. Today I have the pleasure of introducing a friend of mine, Keith Zundel. Keith is a VP Commercial Lending Manager and Senior Commercial Lender with the Bank of Idaho, and he brings over 12 years of banking and leadership experience that include retail, treasury management, various leadership roles, and commercial-related roles. He's found his passion in being a key partner, helping team members and businesses find success. This ultimately led him to specialize in many facets of commercial lending and leadership over several years. Keith has direct experience with organizing training courses, personal professional development, many lending fields, including SBA, medical professional, commercial real estate, a lot of acronyms, other stuff, new construction, cross-collateralization, equipment finance, lines of credit, acquisition, startup, nonprofit, not-for-profit, and more. He has direct experience helping clients with the various other banking needs that come with owning a business, such as cash management, savings, internal buying, selling, sweeps, merchant services, payroll, etc. He takes pride in offering the highest level of service to his clients and team members by becoming an advocate for them as they navigate their business and professional needs. He takes a personal approach with those he works with by earning a relationship so they know who they are working with, someone that generally cares about them and their success. Providing value to his family, team members, clients, and community is what he considers most important. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That is a mouthful. So.
Like that's a lot of letters and it's in your language.
Yeah, that's definitely bio meant for banking.
Yeah, well, you come with a lot of experience, but I want to just say the reason I had you on the podcast is because we've developed a relationship over the past 4 years, I'd say.
Yeah. Yep.
We met at Leadership Pocatello, Chubbuck, and I really think those kinds of opportunities and communities are great experiences because you get to know it's not a networking thing.
Yeah.
It's something that you can actually facilitate and actually gain relationships. And Keith is one of the people that I've maintained a relationship and we've gotten to know each other more over the years. Totally respect him as a leader in the community. We've served on boards together on the United Way. Yep. And we seem to see each other a lot of events because I think we're similarly, we're in the same mindset of helping our communities thrive. Yeah. And we care about the people that we serve.
Yeah, absolutely.
And today, in fact, we're talking about leadership competencies. And as you know, we have a variety of assessment tools, and one of them is 25 leadership competencies that we help to develop in people, individuals, and organizations. And you took the assessment, and one of your top skills is customer focus. And we define customer focus as anticipating meetings and or exceeding customer needs, wants, and expectations. So that was his second. His first one was personal accountability, and his second skill, highly developed skill, was customer focus. And I think that's really important because when we look at these competencies, we have our strengths, and we have the ones that that we have extremely well developed, and then we have kind of moderately developed, and then needs developed. So we look at the job and we think, well, is this a skill you need for your job? For example, if you go to the back, you look at time and priority management is one of your lowest, right?
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, you think, do you really need that? Is that a skill that the job calls for? Or,
Right.
or is your life calling for it, right?
Right.
And so that's how we help to develop leaders. And yours is your own personal assessment.
Yep.
Obviously, we could do a 360 to see if it aligns with what other people think that work around you, right?
Yeah.
And so this is how the tool is used. But I think that Keith really does. I don't think it's just something that he believes. I think he really does live that customer focus. And I know people that work for him. So I know that the people that do report to him feel like you really care about them. You care about your customers. And so I want to know, how did you get there? First of all, did you want to be a banker when you grew up? And how did you end up down this path? And how have you developed customer focus? And I mean, from mistakes you've made to things that you've learned, all that kind of stuff that would be helpful for people trying to develop this skill.
Okay. Well, so I'll go back a little bit. I was not planning to be a banker. So that just kind of happened just by fluke, really. So I was going to school in Colorado and doing psychology and pre-med, essentially, because most of my family is in medical. My dad's an attorney at Legal Aid, actually, here in town. And so I saw that professional background and spent some time in his office, but never really, I don't like to argue. Even though, like,
you're so peoply, you're a high.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Even though my number 3 is negotiating, which I thought that was interesting. So, but which I do a lot of that in my job. But anyways, going back, I was working at I actually had a great boss. I was helping him. He had 3 stores. It was a cell phone store, and I was going to college and just helping him run some of the stores, and really enjoyed it. He let me kind of see the inside scoop of business. And so I got to kind of see the background of, when health insurance was coming out and it was going to be required, how much that was going to be. Anyways, really got deep into the weeds with running a business, even though it was his money. But anyways, so I was actually just running a change order for the business, and I just, we had a baby on the way. We didn't have health insurance. Pay was okay. I felt like I was paid good. And I just asked the teller, I was like, do you like your job? It just kind of happened. Yeah. She's like, I love it. And she just sold it to me. And I'm like, maybe I should just, kind of step away from here and just see what happens. So I just kind of threw my hat in the ring, and they had this big old group interview, which I don't think that happens anymore because it's so hard to find people.
Yeah,
but
there's not a huge group knocking on your door.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so we went to that, and at the end of the meeting, the ladies came up to me and said, hey, we want you. And so she said, we have a spot we want to put you. It'd be in Windsor, which is just outside of Greeley. And I was like,
what's Greeley? No.
Yeah, I know. It's a saying is you drive south till you smell it, and then you drive east till you step in it. So... Because it just has a smell. I don't know. You have to live there to know. If you've been there, you know it.
This is in Idaho for all of you who are out of the area.
Yeah, it's the town. So, anyways, so I said, I got the benefits package, all that, which was great, and just decided to do it. So I just stepped back from the other role, working with the regional manager, and stepped over there, and it was an interesting transition. I got into it while I was still in school, and it was just fascinating. It was just a teller, and I remember the first time I held, like, I think it was $100-something thousand in cash, and I'm like, this is kind of cool,
Right.
Like, you don't get that chance very often, right? And at least I didn't think so. And then I started learning about all these different things, and it was at a really large bank. And they had a career portal where you could go in and you could just see all the jobs. And this is a huge bank. And so they tell you the salary range and everything. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, I think I could go for this. And so I kind of just went through that pretty deep, talked to my wife quite a bit. And I just kind of buckled in, and and went for the ride.
Wow.
And just kind of explored what I liked. I always liked working with businesses. I was a little bit of an entrepreneur. I had a business in high school.
What was that?
So I raised birds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so all different kinds of birds, and I'd sell them and show them. And
Wow.
yep,
All kinds of birds.
all kinds of birds,
Wow.
parrots, pheasants, pigeons, like
Wow.
all the stuff. And anyway, so
We need to talk more offline about that.
yeah, I just enjoyed it.
That's
So I
cool.
got into that, and so I've always had like little things that I've always liked to make some money doing things I love.
Yeah.
Right. And so I kind of got into that groove, and I fell in love with business. And so after about 6 months, I moved into an actual banker role with the bank, and did that for a few months, and then got into a business advocacy role. And just from there, it just kind of escalated pretty quick.
Yeah.
So then I got back into management there as well, and managed retail, and then I started training there. So I was training over 100 people on credit, and just mainly consumer, some business, just products, services, how things work, right?
Right.
And then that's when I kind of got my eye on the ball of I knew I wanted to get into commercial.
Yeah.
And so I started developing a relationship with the manager, who we're actually coworkers today still. So it's kind of fun how it works. But, and anyways, just developed the relationship, started doing all the training that I could within where I was with the hours that were, I was working quite a few hours, and then just jumped on the chance to get into an associate position when it came up. And from there, it just built. So I've been in commercial specifically over 8 years.
Wow.
And so it's
You're building quite a team.
Oh, yep. And been in leadership. And today, so I left that bank 4.5 years ago, and have been with Bank of Idaho since. And it's been a journey. I got there and it had a modestly small portfolio because it wasn't a very big bank. And since then, now we have 3 lenders, including myself, and 2 assistants, and we're the second largest branch in the bank.
Wow.
So it's been a fun little journey to
That's incredible.
go there. Yeah.
I do know at least one of your people that work for you, and she's incredible.
She is.
And having helping people that want to find, we're both very strong advocates for women in business,
Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
helping them to find and get outside of the box of thinking of them not being able to own a building or own the space and always being the renter and things like that. And so
Great.
just so many rabbit holes we could go down right now. But what I want to know is, I know by reading your report and knowing you for time, you're a high I, which is very people-y, right?
Yeah.
You're you care about people in context, so that comes naturally to you.
Yep.
But what are specifically some things that you've done over the years to become intentional about becoming a better listener?
Yeah.
Because we tend to speak a lot, right?
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
how have you become intentional about listening to what people need to create that type of customer focus that you are doing?
Yeah. A lot of it has come through training and development, like what I've done with you.
Yeah.
So the other bank offered a lot of that as well. And so back when, like, say, situational leadership was a big thing now,
Which is what we do.
SL2,
Yeah,
right?
we have that one too.
Yep.
We have all the Blanchard materials as well. Yeah.
So we did that in Twin, and that was great to kind of start going, even though it was really high level, going back, like, picking my brain on all that again, and just being honest with myself, with where I'm at, and taking these tests and personality tests, and just not letting it hinder me, I guess is the right word. Just taking ownership of, okay, yeah, I really suck at that, and what can I do to be better? So just like a very simple thing that comes to mind was when I show appreciation, I would just say, hey, thanks, that's great, appreciate it a lot. And that would be kind of something I would say, and I wouldn't mean it, but it was very surface level, right? And transactional, yeah. Even though it's people I see every day and I care about.
Right.
But noticing that I did that was, I've noticed that through doing just these courses. And I'm like, so being more genuine. saying, I appreciate you because of X, Y, Z.
Right.
Right. So they recognize that I truly see something they're doing.
Right.
And they recognize that, well, they feel recognized.
Yeah.
And so that's just one little example.
Yeah.
And I love self-improvement. I love the idea of us just trying to be our best selves, and we fall short every day,
Yeah.
but we have the intentions of getting there
Yeah.
and being better.
I love that. And it's kind of funny because I'm thinking about the last podcast I had was actually somebody she's an improv specialist, but she started off in banking as a teller.
Interesting. Cool.
And it's interesting, and it's such a people-y job.
Yep.
And so building these skills, from the bottom up, oftentimes we give a lot of training to our leaders, but we don't give it this development opportunity for the people who matter most, who most likely don't have the skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I kind of like the flip-flop version of where we give the people that are on the front lines a little more training and development, because number one, they're going to want to stay in our organization longer, which you said that happened in the last bank that you were at. You had a lot of opportunities for growth and development. I know for a fact, working with a lot of organizations, that's one thing that makes people decide if they're going to stay with an organization or not, is just that opportunity for learning and development and growth. And how much does their employer want to invest in them?
Yep.
Even if they might get skills that would bring them somewhere else,
Yeah.
It's better that they have that opportunity than stay because it's the only thing they can do.
Right. Yeah. Well, and they're happier.
They're
And that
more
brings
engaged.
much better work.
It does, absolutely. And having that. So what are some of so speaking of customer focus, one of the ones that we have is Legendary Service by Blanchard. Have you ever?
I've heard of it. I don't.
Yeah, it's one of those that actually creates a framework for what that looks like, and there's an acronym, and there's a whole mindset, and it's all research based. But I'm curious if you had like actual training in customer service, or has it just been years and years of different pieces of pie or whatever?
So there's been certain like modules I've taken, and then it's been basically direct feedback. So starting from, I'll just start with banking since we're in banking. We can go back further if we need to. But, when I was there, I loved coaching, and so it didn't bother me, but it was very kind of micromanaged, which it can be a double-edged sword, especially someone's not open to it.
Yeah.
But this one, I just soaked it in. And so someone would be right there behind me, listen to every word I say. And there'd be, hey, why'd you say it this way? Don't say no problem, right? Say thank you or all is well, keep it positive. Right. And I was already doing psychology anyways.
Right.
So a lot of that actually taps into that.
It does. Workplace organizational psychology, right?
Yep. So in fact, I shared a few things in just like a training that we had as lenders a couple months ago. Just some basic things that you can do to just have someone open up to you quicker. And a lot of it is body language. Yeah. It's positivity.
Mimicking.
Mimicking. Yeah, exactly. Mirroring.
Mirroring.
Yeah. Yep. So mirroring. A lot of it is that, and then just being vulnerable. And so you become real to these people. And so a lot of it has been me just reading things and self-analyzing, and then but with the base of really good leaders. Like
modeling it for you.
Shane Hunt said this really well. So he said he doesn't believe in self-made man, and he's so right. And that goes for anyone, men and women. But it's the people around us, and if you're just willing to buckle up and listen and take advice, you're just gonna develop skills that you didn't know you could.
Yeah, he actually said that on this podcast.
Did he really?
I know he said it at the United Way thing.
Yeah.
He said that, but he said the same thing when he was on the podcast, that he doesn't believe. And I agree. I don't think that doesn't mean you didn't do all the work,
Correct.
but you didn't get there.
Right.
You didn't get there without someone else offering you support or willing to share your name in a room full of people. Or there's doors that have been open for all of us. Doesn't mean we didn't do the work. Yeah. Right? Yeah. We still all had to do it.
You still have to buckle up.
You still have to
buckle up.
And what I'm hearing from you is you're a seeker anyways. I'd have to look on there, but I think you're a seeker of knowledge and discovery and becoming your better self. That's not a natural tendency for a lot of people. And so did you notice that? Do you notice that in your organizations or in your work experiences that some people were like, this is how I am, you just deal with it?
Absolutely.
And you knew this when you hired me, you knew this when you married me. Like, you know this mindset, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've seen this around. And I think that's definitely a fixed mindset. But how do you deal with customers or people in your life that you see where they're fixed in their mindset and they're just not willing to budge or see how there's different possibilities or beliefs or opportunities that they don't see?
Yeah. So I don't push people.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
If they're in their ways, then and they're happy, then that's great.
Yes.
That's good for them. I'll be a support for them. You know, like just as an example, I tend to customers that are hard to deal with. I tend to get along with really well, and I just it's because I don't care. You know, they can have a rough day, and hey, they can take it out on me, and I don't care because I know it's not personal. And but I'm never going to call them and say, hey, that was really rude. You know, I just rub it. I just let it roll off my back and move on. And
So ego is not getting in the way.
yeah,
That's-
it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So, and I think, and when I was younger, it did, and I just recognized that, and it's just not worth sweating over.
Yeah.
It's just not, and so I don't try to change people.
Yep.
So I give them the opportunity to let me share what I know, and maybe if they ask for the feedback, obviously with my team members, I give them feedback, but I try and hire right as well. So I'm very, very careful.
Yeah.
Who I hire. I will hire someone that has very little experience but has the right personality
And mindset.
all day.
Yeah.
All day.
You can train skills.
Exactly. Yep. Even though it's a big learning curve going into commercial,
Yeah.
but it's you just cannot ask for a good personality.
Yeah.
And just the grit.
Yeah.
You know, to be humble and put your head down and learn. That's invaluable.
It is. That's so good. I couldn't agree more with that statement. And I think that, you know, taking the ego out and just being like, this is where this person is, and meeting them where they are.
Yeah.
You know, and understanding that it's not personal is a skill that takes time to develop.
Yeah.
Just like you said, when you were younger, I didn't have it either when I was younger. Now I start to realize, you know, everybody has different lenses, different experiences, different education, different ways that they see the world. And sometimes it's just the approach. Oftentimes it's just the approach
Absolutely.
that somebody hasn't, they don't feel seen, they don't feel heard. And so they're raging or they're angry because of a reason. And so being able to see them, meet them where they are. And you're right, you impose on people. Nobody likes to be imposed upon.
Right. Yeah.
Then we just want to fight for, I mean, you can.
That wall is
yeah.
immediately up.
You know, I think about seatbelts. I think about masks. I think about vaccinations. I think about anything you're told to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't go over well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
People, when we're thinking about leading people and leading people through changes and things like that, autonomy is one of the things that we all need, that basic human need and basic psychological need, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I have come to the point too where I can tell right away where somebody is.
Yeah.
And then I can see if they're open to another perspective. And if they're not, I just tell them move on and tell them where they can find me. But I used to try to swim upstream and kind of fight the current.
Yeah.
And now I just go, they're not ready. It's like you've heard the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Yep.
You can lead a person to knowledge, but you can't make them think.
Exactly.
It's like
they can choose.
They can choose.
Ignore all of it.
They can. But it is more difficult when they work for you, and also when that attitude and that mindset is something that's negatively impacting the rest of the team.
Yeah. Yep.
So how do you handle that?
Yeah. So those are scenarios that get addressed, right? I mean, they have to be, especially if it's bringing morale down. And so when I approach those, I approach it from, hey, this is kind of where the team's at. This is where we feel like you are, but I know you can be right here.
Right.
and we'd walk through the problem. And they have to have the opportunity to see it, to hear it, so that they can, marinate in that, and then follow up later with more discussion. And, if they're willing to buckle up and recognize what they're doing, then they're worth the investment and the time to keep doing it.
Yes.
But if you keep hitting that same pothole, then it's usually and this is hard for me. It's hard to give up on people, but sometimes you have to just move on, and those are extremely hard.
It is.
Hard, honestly, for me, that's the hardest part of leadership at all. And sometimes those are put in your place and you don't have control over it, right? And those are even harder.
Yeah.
But it comes with the role.
Yeah.
So.
It does come with the role. And rather that's, even in higher ed, I think, talking to my students in the past, it's like, I can't want this more than you do.
Yeah.
Like I'm giving you an opportunity to, right here is where you need to be.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you the opportunity. And I'm over here cheering for you,
Yeah.
but you actually have to do the work.
Yeah.
And this is the level of expectation that we have. And this is the standard for the workplace that you're going to.
Yeah.
I know you might think I'm against you. Or no,
Yeah.
I know what they're looking for. I know what you need to do. I know you have the capacity. But you're your biggest obstacle, right?
Yep. Meet me in the middle at least.
At least.
At least.
And do it for 30, 60, and 90 days, not just for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Because
Yes.
that's another thing that I think is one of the things that we're talking about is accountability. You're holding people accountable.
Yep.
And this is one of the biggest struggles that we see across organizations is they don't have very good accountability measures and they don't have skill sets in difficult conversations.
Right.
So both of those are required for leadership.
Absolutely.
And if you just brush it under the rug, what does that say to the rest of your team? And how do you think that impacts your customer focus when you don't address it and then everybody knows you don't address it and then everybody else is like, who cares? And then the culture is like,
Well, it's a recipe for a toxic environment.
It is.
It just is. And you start losing good people really quick.
They
Because
can get a job.
To be there.
They don't.
They don't have to be there at all.
No, and it's usually the toxic ones that stay because they don't have other opportunities, but your good people have opportunities to move. And so you're I mean, this cannot be addressed enough because you're treating everybody the same. You're being equitable. You want them to rise. You're giving them opportunities. And all this translates out. When you start with your team, it impacts the customer experience.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And people get it the wrong way. Students first, this, that, we customer focus. It's like, well, you better start with your team.
Yeah.
Because if they don't feel that, it's not going to resonate and they're not going to have the same experience as if the team felt that cohesive, that they're appreciated, that they come first, that their lives matter, that they're not robots. You know, if you do that with your people, that enhances the customer experience.
100%. It's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
It's the only way. So if you do that, I mean, it's just, there's no better morale booster than someone knowing that they're appreciated at their job and that they know they're doing their job right, or they know where they need to work, but that person, their manager has their back.
And gives them the tools to be successful.
Yep. Gives them the tools, is there for them.
Mentoring,
letting
supporting.
them go on their journey. But has the flexibility to make mistakes without oversight and being worried about that. And it just creates a culture of care.
Yep, culture of care and psychological safety, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you see it from that perspective, that you understand that it really does matter. The team is, their well-being is so important that will shine out to the rest.
Yeah. Absolutely. Probably the most impactful training I did back in the day, outside of DISC, et cetera, was servant leadership.
Yeah.
That spoke to me like straight to my core. And so that's kind of what I always use as a guide.
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of a tricky thing to manage when you're you're advocating a little bit more than your employer sometimes for a person. And so you just have to manage that yourself, I guess. But that's one thing that I feel like creates one of the best cultures.
I agree.
So
People that feel like they're served and that you're there to help them and lead them and you're not powering over them are going to be, so much more willing. And especially when you're willing to show that vulnerability and, hey, these are some of the mistakes I made along the way. So what is one of the big mistakes that you made along the way for customer service that it was so impactful that made you learn from it?
Yeah. So I had one, it's crazy. I don't even remember his name, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
Which it was right when I first got into commercial. I was just starting to learn things. He had tenant problems in one of his buildings. And so he wasn't making enough to cover it. He was paying out of his pocket to pay the loan bill, which in commercial, you don't want that. You want the building to take care of itself, right? Or the investment, whatever it is, or the business operating itself. And so he went to go sell it, and I felt like everything went good. I responded quickly, talked to him, but I let him know we have a problem. We need to work through this.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he ends up selling the property to another large organization that goes in. We get paid off, and they fill the space and operate it themselves. And so I think, oh, good for him. He got $1 million on top of his loan. He's sitting pretty good, or whatever it was. I don't remember. He wrote me a letter telling me I was the worst lender he ever worked with, and just dug in. And that hurt. It hurt really bad. And so I used that experience just to make sure I'm not missing something.
Right.
And so, because there were, after the fact, okay, maybe I could have done this better, be more clear here. And maybe I should have involved XYZ, at this time. So it helps me analyze a little bit more. I haven't had that happen since, thankfully.
Yeah.
But
then it's not really a mistake, is it?
Well, yeah,
it's a learning opportunity.
It's a learning opportunity. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And so there was things I felt like I did okay, but overall, I was new to the role, and it was just it was interesting. It knocked me down. So because I pride myself on making people happy.
Yeah. Right.
With what I give them.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes you can't. But that was a very good opportunity for me because I was just new to the role. And it was just one of those things where self-analyze, here we go.
Yeah. So one of the important things about self-analyzing and owning your stuff is also not to beat yourself up, right?
Yeah.
And I think we have to really check ourselves when we're starting to think we're not worthy, we're not good, and allow for mistakes or learning opportunities. It's really only a mistake once it happens again.
Yeah.
Because the first time you just don't really know. You're unaware. There's a blind spot, and you're just learning. And how would you be perfect when you just started out in that, anyways?
Yeah. It was interesting. And I would say that's probably something that I do have to manage. Is I am very self-critical.
Yeah.
And I'm better now. I feel like when I make a mistake, I take the time to step back and go, okay, what can I learn from this? And I just try and apply.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of times I didn't, and it just you beat yourself down over and over.
And what do you call it? It's a vicious cycle.
It
and
is.
then you get worse and worse and worse, and then and it's hard to snap out of that.
Absolutely.
And so recognizing when you're in that vicious cycle, and to flip that around to a virtuous cycle, we really need to go, what did I learn from this? Everyone makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. There's no such thing. It's actually a facade, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And so were you the only person that saw that letter, or?
No, it was, I had an assistant at the time. She saw it, manager saw it. I showed it to them.
Yeah, right.
I internalized it for a couple of days and did that whole beat myself up, like, man, what did I miss,
Right.
But I did. I opened up about it, and it just presented an opportunity. And obviously, my manager was like, "Look, you did your job." It was very positive, but I'm like, no, someone doesn't just send a letter if they're that upset.
Yeah, it takes time.
And so I listened to him, and but I also looked at it as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And just learn from it.
That's a mindset, though.
Yep.
Not everybody has that. That's a mindset that what can I learn from this? What's one thing that's probably right about this when getting feedback?
There usually is.
Yeah.
Our biggest critics typically have truth to it. Even if we don't, even though we're like, no, I don't do that. But there's usually seeds of truth, even if they're liars, even, whatever the scenario. Our biggest critics, we can learn the most from them.
Oh, my anti-heroes are some of my best teachers.
Yes, they are. They really are.
They are.
So it's just an opportunity to self-reflect. Okay, where is their truth in what they're saying?
Yeah, there's a seed of truth.
Yeah.
In here, and if I can cultivate that into that's something I want to remove. That's something I'm going to chip away from me because I don't want that to be a part of me anymore. I want to learn from this and decide, no, that's not what I do. That's not my truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, totally agree. So.
Yeah. Wow. So how are we doing on time here? We're getting close here.
Yeah,
so
that's all right.
3 tips. This is a ton of tips and wisdom that you're sharing for customer service. But if you were to talk to yourself as a new professional, because we have a lot of young professionals that listen to our podcast, and this is a free way to get leadership skills.
Yeah.
Aside from, you've done a lot of trainings and things, but what are 3 things that you wish that you would have done earlier that would have probably paved a little smoother path or made you grow faster, miracle grow you?
Yeah. Well, hiring a coach would be huge. Hiring a outside of work.
Yes, agreed.
So outside of work, hiring someone like yourself that can and be truly open to feedback. Just let it sink in. You don't have to make a life change in one day, but marinate it and figure out how you can adapt to that and grow into it.
Right.
I would say that's probably one of the biggest ones that would have got me further faster.
Yep.
And I do feel like I went pretty quick in path, but that's probably number 1.
Maybe even not faster, but less suffering.
Exactly.
Less suffering along the way.
Much more awareness and a more enjoyable journey.
Yeah.
Yep.
And somebody there on the journey with you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, and it's even if you're doing it. Actually, it'd be great if they're married to do it with their significant other, or not even married, but just that life partner.
Yeah.
Doing it with them, that would be great because that was definitely marriage-wise. My wife and I are good at talking, and but you could feel that as I'm going my career, and she's like, hey.
Yeah. You want to keep going in the same direction instead of...
So having those discussions, and that's what's kept us together and the glue together was making sure that she knew where I was, because I am very career-minded and I'm pretty ambitious. I recognize that about myself, and that's something I have to tone down all the time.
Right.
And just, okay, calm down. We're okay. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Take your time.
Yeah.
But making sure that whoever is in your life is a part of what you're doing.
Yes. So good.
Is just part of it. Even if they don't want to be a big part of it, but they know where you are and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And that way they're there with you.
Yeah. They're on board.
Yeah.
And don't you think that the leadership skills that you learned apply to your family too?
Oh, 100%.
Your DISC, your emotional intelligence, your strengths, your weaknesses.
All of it.
It's you.
Yep.
At home or at work.
It is.
It's
it
you.
Is.
The whole human.
Yep. It is the whole. That's perfect. The whole human.
The whole
I love
human.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I love that. One more tip.
So I'm trying to remember the phrase. So the most winningest coach. What's his name? I can never remember his name.
Most winningest coach. Are you mean like Marshall Goldsmith? Like award-winning?
Like,
are you talking about executive coach?
He was a rugby coach.
Okay.
I can't remember his name, but anyway, so he just remembering that essentially, if we want to be our best selves, we're just in our own way.
Oh yeah.
And be okay with that, and look for the opportunity. Always look for opportunities and ask for feedback from those around you. It doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah.
So like if you work at a bank, call your chief credit officer if you can. I'm in a small bank, so I can do that.
Yeah.
But whatever person is in that, let's say a credit decision role, call them and say, hey, how are my write-ups? You're probably going to be the only person doing it. And that's high likelihood.
Yeah.
And they're going to take time to tell you, usually. Not all the time, but most people in those roles love to share their knowledge.
Yes.
And so ask. Just ask the people that you look up to.
Yep.
Ask the people in the organization that you feel like do their job well. Don't ask, because, hey, I'm getting a promotion. What's my advice?
Yeah.
Ask, hey, what drives your role? How do you do X, Y, Z?
How can I get better?
How can I
you
be
share
better?
Your wisdom?
Yeah. So, and that's something I've always tried to do, and I feel like that's actually helped me a lot. And then when they tell me something I don't want to hear, just listen. Don't say anything. Just listen.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Or as the improv say, yes. And.
Yes, and.
No, yeah, but. No, yeah,
That's
but.
right.
Yes, I love that. Those are great tips. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
and for
absolutely.
our listeners, I hope this was helpful, that if it is and it resonates with you, please like, subscribe, and share. This is a way that we can improve all of our leadership skills, and it's just an easy way for us to elevate one another and share the wisdom that's taken you so many years to gain. So thank you so much, and I'm really happy to have you here today.
Thanks, Angie. I appreciate you.
Thank
You're the
you.
best.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you know that Black River offers a learning management system with over 10,000 development topics? The Leader U Learning Management System is an affordable option that empowers organizations to manage and curate in-house learning development opportunities. The built-in calendar and scheduling system can be used to coordinate compliance courses such as HR Respectful Workplace and IT Cybersecurity, or lunch and learns on topics such as motivation, self-leadership, and leading more effective meetings. At Black River, we are dedicated to providing a learning solution that focuses on engaging employees in their own self and team development. Our clients use the Leader U Learning Management System to remove barriers through accessible and self-paced micro-learning content, save time with the centralized and automated training assignments, promote more meaningful team discussions, issue certificates of completion and track development efforts, and enhance and simplify onboarding efforts. Contact us for more information on our learning management system at info@blackriverpm.com.